So this is section 10.1.1, and we've just learned about finding the volume of cylinders. And this worksheet doesn't contain finding the surface area of a cylinder, but we're going to cover that because it's going to be important for you to know that for the next lesson. Okay, so we're going to find the surface area of this cylinder. So to find the surface area of a cylinder, you have to consider the different surfaces of the cylinder first. So this is a can that I've covered with paper. So you can see that all the surfaces of this can are covered. So it's a lot like the cylinder that we see here. So if we peel back the surfaces and just look and see what those surfaces look like when they're taken off of the can, we can see that the side of the can is just one big rectangle, and then the ends of the can are circles. So when we lay them out like that, we can see that the surface area of the circle is really composed of the two ends, which are circles, and then a long rectangle. Okay, and we can figure out, so we know how to figure out the area of circles, so we'll do that in a minute. And then the other thing is we need to find out, well, what is the area of this large rectangle? Okay, so when this large rectangle was rolled up so that it represented the sides of the cylinder, we know that this circle fit perfectly into that side. And so if we were going to measure this side of the rectangle, we know that it's exactly the same as the circumference of the circles at either end. So now that we know that this is the circumference, then when I unroll this, we can actually just label this the circumference. Circumference of the circle. All right, and then if we are trying to figure out, well, what is the other side of the rectangle? Well, we know that that rectangle is just represented by the height of the cylinder, or the distance between the bases of the cylinder. So these circles are the bases, and we know that the height is just the difference between those two, or the distance between those two bases. So I can unroll this again, and I can label this side of the rectangle as the height of the cylinder. Okay, and the circumference of the circle, or the circumference of the circle base. So, and notice we're using capital B, because just as with our triangular prisms, the base of a circle is a two-dimensional measure, so we're using the capital B for that. Okay, so now all we have to do is figure out, well, what's the circumference of the circles that form the bases of our cylinder, and then what is the area of this large triangle? And we know that the dimensions of the triangle are the height of the cylinder and the circumference of the circle. All right, so first of all, let's go ahead and find the the area of the base, or the area of the circle that makes the base. So in this case, we can see that from side to side, or the diameter, is 26. So let's go ahead and write down the area, the formula for the area of a circle, which is area is equal to pi times r squared. And then we can fill in the numbers. Okay, so pi just stays pi, but r is going to be half of this distance, which is diameter. And so that's going to be 13. So 13 squared. Okay, so now we can go ahead and just do the math. Okay, so I'm getting out my calculator. Okay, here's the calculator. And what we're going to do is r squared, so 13 squared, times pi. Where's my pi? Oh, here it is. Pi equals, so the area is going to equal 530, and we'll round this out to the nearest tenth, so 0.9. And we know that the units are meters, and we know that since it's area, which is 2 dimensions, it's going to be m squared. All right, so we know what A is, and now we need to figure out what that rectangle, but then we know that we have 2 bases, and so it needs to be 2 times A. So 2 times A is 2 times 530.9, so that will be 530.9 times 2 equals 1061.8. All right, so that is the 2 areas of, or the areas of the 2 bases. Okay, so now we've got this rectangle, and we know that the area of a rectangle is equal to length times width. And we need to figure out what our length is, which is going to be the circumference of the circle. Okay, so now we have to figure out what the circumference of the circle is. And we know that circumference is equal to C is equal to 2 pi times r. Or another way of writing it is just pi times the diameter. So because we have the diameter in this case, that's going to be a little easier to compute. Okay, so C is equal to pi times, and the diameter in this case is 26. So let's go ahead and compute that. Pi times 26 is equal to 81.7. And this is just meters, because this is a one-dimensional measure. This is the distance around the circle. Okay, but that's going to be one of our dimensions for this rectangle. It's going to be 26, and then the other dimension is going to be the height, and so that'll be 40. So 26 times 40 is equal to 1,040. Okay, so now we've got the area of that rectangle, and then we've got the area of the 2 bases. And so all we have to do is add those 2 up. So the 2 areas, which is 1,061, 0.8, and then, so we've got the area of this rectangle. So plus 1,040, and when we add them together, we would get 2,100, and then no, well, yeah, we've got, oh, yeah, it's no tens, a 1, and then a 0.8. Okay, and that is meters, and remember, this is area, so it's meters squared. So now we've just found the surface area of our cylinder.